Hey guys, how's it going? Shakiel Mahjouri, you can call me Shaq here for Fansided MMA. And today we have what I think you could describe as a veteran of the sport, but someone who still has a lot of room to grow, a lot of time going for them, and is hoping to make a huge impact in 2019. Bryan Caraway, how's it going, brother?
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me, dude. Yeah, man, I'm pumped, feeling good, and it just feels nice to get two fights in one year, and next year I'm sure, hopefully shooting for four, hopefully next year, definitely three. But man, I just want to, I want to get in there and scrap as much as possible, make that money, move up the ranks, and press for a title shot in 2019. But without that happening, I got to get through a very tough game opponent, Pedro Munoz, this coming up this next Friday.
Yeah, you're taking on Pedro Munoz at the TUF 28 finale on Friday, November 30th in Las Vegas. Now, my first question for you here is we talked about this a little bit before we got going. You brought it up now. It's really nice for you to get two fights in 2018 here. You haven't had this since 2014 or 2013. It's been quite a while. How cathartic is it to get in that cage? Because I don't compete, not for a second, but I do train, and I know that being in that space. Oh, we got put on hold, but I think we're gonna come back. There we go. I imagine it's a very cathartic feeling to get in there to train. How good do you feel when you're in the octagon?
Man, I feel good, man. Like, it's been a while. Like, I've been dealing with a lot of personal issues. This last fight was really hard for me. My head coach passed away, and it was just a really difficult time for me. But this has been good. Times went by and passed since then, and I feel like I got my head clear, and things have been a lot better. It's just that was a really hard loss for me, having him, a very unexpected loss, and just the way he passed away, with suicide was very, just a shocker to a lot of people. And it happened, 5 days after I took the fight from my training camp.
Yeah.
And, so I'm here starting the camp. I hadn't fought for, almost 2 years. My head coach that I've known since I was 18 years old, was with me for, the last 6 years in the UFC. Coming up with my wins, and I was putting things together, feeling really great. I had an awesome win over Aljamain Sterling, and then, he commits suicide, and a lot of other personal stuff with, I was together, as everybody knows, with Misha for 10 years. I started her whole entire career out from her first day, and we're still cool, we're friends, but it was just hard to hear, she's, she ended up getting pregnant, literally told me that she was pregnant a week after I was in training camp with that fight. And even though I was happy for her, and we weren't bitter or anything about that, it was just still weird. She was pregnant by one of my teammates after only a year and a half of us breaking up. So it was just a lot to go on. And then I had some other personal things in my life happening with my dad and my little nephew, who was in a severe logging accident that my parents were taking care of. So it was just a really, not any excuses, just explanation of what was going on in my life. I know everybody has trials and tribulations always, and it was just a really kind of tough time. So I'm glad that I have a lot of that behind me, most of it anyway, and was able to put in a solid camp, and was a little bit, was able to be here in the present in my training camp more emotionally. I was there physically always before, but the emotional stress is huge, mental, emotional stress. So I'm pumped for this camp, man. I'm pumped to get back in there. I had an awesome training camp. I'm so stoked just to be getting an octagon in front of the best fans in the world, fighting for the #1 organization for the UFC, and fighting a solid top 10 opponent, man. What else more can I ask for? Being one of the top athletes in the world, and the best sport. I'm stoked.
I'm actually very surprised you brought that all up, because I was going to say, going into this interview, you brought this up recently on MMA Junkie. I know you've talked about in the past about your injuries, your illnesses, your coach Rob Wallace, your dad's health, Misha Tate. And I know that you've sort of strayed away from social media from time to time to kind of get out of the public eye. Why are you being so open about all this now? I didn't even prompt you. What's changed that you really kind of want to get this out there as much as possible?
Just talking to my mental coach and just my psychologist and things like that. And just by speaking it and putting it out there makes lets me know that it's okay, that it happened, that I'm not suppressing the feelings. You know what I mean? Just putting it out there, like, hey, this happened. I dealt with it. Things are real, and I've moved on, and I can, by openly talking about it, I feel like it's helping me put it in the past instead of sweeping it under the rug and trying to pretend it didn't happen. So I think maybe that's just the biggest reason, is just trying to talk about it and be open, and let all the other people, fans out there, kind of just be more personal into my life. Everything has been private forever, even when Misha and I are together. And even though there's a lot of things that were in the public eye, I just, I figured I'm a real person, whether people work in the dental office, people work in construction, whatever it may be. Fighting's my job. I love it. But it's also entertainment. So I just kind of like to let people into our life and know, like, hey, even though we're fighters, we're tough on TV or whatever it may be, we're human beings too. We have trials and tribulations. And, I know there's a lot of other people out there struggling. And I just want to convey to them, even though you're going through hardships and hard times, hard times don't last. What do they say? Tough times don't last. Tough people do. And so, I just like to be open with that and kind of share, for the people who are maybe having the hard times, to kind of hang in there and keep pushing. And, just getting it out there, gets it off my chest, I think, a little bit. And, just helps me, I guess, maybe deal with it or finally accept it to move on.
And for people watching, I just want to apologize if it looked like I was absent there for a second. Thought I had a technical difficulty. We're all good. I'm happy to hear that, I find sometimes there's a bit of a tense relationship between fighters and media. I'm glad that this is helping you. And what I really wanted to ask about this is, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate, but you go through these hard stretches in life. And like you told MMA Junkie, you see the clouds kind of parting, the sun's coming in, the future looks bright. But what do you do day to day, or how do you focus on your attitude and perhaps your mental health? Because, a lot of people have ups and downs. They feel like everything's going good and they get hit with something and it kind of derails them. What are you doing to sort of make sure that you're going to be good going forward too, not just right now when everything seems to be improving?
Absolutely. That's a great question. And, my advice would to be, lean on your friends and family, the people. Some people, maybe if you're not close to your family, find your close friend, lean on your teammates. You know what I mean? We bleed and sweat together every single day. There's good people. I know people are going to be out there and negative and say, I'm not close to my family. I don't have any friends. Open your mind up a little bit. And, there's got to be somebody out there, lean on your friends, lean on your teammates, lean on your family, lean on the people that are close to you. And you got to realize, everybody has ups and downs, even the best, most famous people in the world, think they have all the money in the world or they don't have the money in the world. None of that matters, when it comes down to it. It's nice, you could say that. And I know if you're poor, you're like, oh, it sure helped me out a lot. But as soon as you have it, it helps for a little bit. But then there's just your worries are going to transition to something else. So my advice is just to focus on the big picture and don't really, try to over micromanage all the little things, because that's a huge problem for me. I'm a very I get very anxious, and I have I'm kind of OCD, and I try to micromanage everything, and I want to make sure every little thing is in place. Type A personality, and you just got to realize that you can't do that. You have to look at the big picture sometimes, and really look at overall how far you've came in life, and not how much further you have to go. Mm-hmm. And then just lean on family and friends and the things that are solid in your life. You know what I mean?
It's a real rabbit hole, isn't it? Because you're doing well, and then maybe you're a little more stressed than usual, and you start micromanaging a little bit or whatever your bad tendencies are, and you kind of fall into that trap again, huh?
Absolutely, it does. And it does. And, it's good to have good people in your life and good friends to kind of help pull you out of that rabbit hole, to say, hey, you're starting to do this again. Hey, look up, you're beating yourself up a little bit. Hey, you're overtraining too much because you're getting too anxious, chill out, or remember less is more sometimes. Hey, you're worrying about maybe getting knocked out or choked. Have you ever been knocked out in your career? Maybe that's no, I never have. Or have you ever lost, any of your good family and friends because you lost a fight? Did anybody just leave your life? Like, oh, you lost that you actually care about. Yeah, sure, fans come and go, but you got to look at the big picture of things. You got to find the positives in life. And, I think it's really important to find people, that care about you to help pull your head out of your ass sometimes, so to speak.
Well, man, it's nice to hear that you're in a good place. It's nice to see you getting back to your activity. I think it is a shame that your career was sidetracked so much because of all these external influences, because you were well on your way to doing something really special, getting to that title shot, and I hope you get there. Speaking of your fight, you were talking to James Lynch recently, and you were stressing how you were removed from the rankings. And you're saying you wanted to get back there. Did you know that about as of like a week ago or earlier this week, you're at number 14 on the UFC rankings? They put you back in there.
Somebody actually just told me that today, because I think it's because I said something about it. But honestly, it's kind of bananas, because I was like number 6 or 7. I lost to Stamen, a close split decision loss, which you think they got to take in that account a lot. I think it was like 12 out of 16 sites had me winning that fight, and they're the ones who vote on it. And even though I lost on paper, like, I won that fight, and I was one of the worst fights I've ever fought in my life, personally. It was just ridiculous. But that being said, even after the loss, I held the number 8 spot probably for 3 or 4 months solid. So that means there was several votes that happened that I was being held at 8. They had voted me 8 in several times. And then I got in a dispute with the UFC. I actually had left the UFC quietly. So I was moved from the rankings due to just because I wasn't signed with the UFC anymore. I was going to go somewhere else. And then I was able to pass it out. Yeah, so I was actually completely unsigned. I even got my release paper from the UFC, completely released. Literally like 3-4 days later, I was completely removed from the rankings, completely out of the rankings. So that's why, I think Bloody Elbow, there was a couple articles that popped up and said, hey, Bryan Caraway was number 8 holding solid, and now he's just poof gone, not even in the top 15. Literally, how do you go from being number 8 for 4 months after your loss and then just disappear out of the rankings, completely disappear? It just doesn't happen. And then they never added me back in, and then now they added me in at 14. I have wins over Aljamain Sterling. Granted, I haven't been as active as him, and I lost to Stamen, a close split decision. But still, I have wins over Aljamain, and he's been killing it. And it's not like that. It wasn't that long ago. He doesn't look like any different fighter than when I fought him. I beat him again, and he's ranked number 7. So I still think it's just bananas that I'm 14. That's almost double the amounts. If they move me back to I still think I'm top 10. Maybe number 10, 11 even. But 14. That's bananas. I don't know. It's crazy, but whatever. Numbers don't really matter in the UFC anymore. It doesn't really matter. It seems like pay doesn't fucking matter based on title shots. Don't matter on your rankings. I beat Aljamain Sterling. He was number 4 in the world, 12-0. Beat him. I moved into number 3, number 4 in the spot, and Garbrandt got the fight, and he was ranked like number 8 or 9, and he got the title shot. Crazy. I was actually ranked above Dillashaw, I think, for a minute, maybe 2, and he got the title shot against Henan Barao. He ranked, I think, 8, and I was ranked 7. He got the title shot over Barao as well. So everybody knows the rankings don't matter anymore.
They really
it's all
don't.
Sells tickets and entertainment. So it's just kind of cool when I'm macking on girls to tell them that I'm top 10 in the world, and they look me up.
Yeah, I wouldn't feel too bad about it. The UFC rankings in general are chaotic, but I think bantamweight in particular is kind of an S show.
Yeah, right.
I gotta get to this. What prompted the release? Did you ask for the release? Why did you ask for the release? What happened?
It was just the miscommunication. I was unhappy with the UFC on some stuff. I wanted to get really busy. Right after my Stanley fight, I was begging to get back in there. Nothing. I was saying I'll fight anybody possible. And then they were looking at opponents. And then I was trying to negotiate some pay. Even though I came off a loss, I was like, man, I'm like the lowest paid guy in the top 10 in the world. And then we kind of got in an argument, and they said, well, you turned down these fights before, and you got hurt this fight, and, all this stuff. So I ended up having a meeting with Dana, and I just laid on the table. I said, hey, man, I turned down 2 fights. You guys offered me those fights after Aljamain Sterling, like 6-7 days after Misha and I broke up. We were in a 10-year relationship. To be fair, I was like suicidal, like thinking about taking a fight. Like I couldn't even eat food. I lost probably 30 pounds in a month and a half. I literally would look like a crackhead. They offered me that, and I didn't even, they offered my manager at the time, and I didn't even say. I said, dude, I'm not fighting nobody. And so they turned down that, and they thought I didn't really want to say that we were broken up. I didn't want to go public because we were only broken up for a week, and it was a 10-year relationship. So I thought, maybe we're going to work things out. Things have happened before it happens. I'm not going to be – but it got pretty serious, and then I found out some some pretty bad personal news on the relationship, just other stuff I don't want to get into.
Yeah,
And it was devastating to me. Like I was just like my whole life, just it was a mutual breakup at first, and then it was kind of cool. It wasn't that bad, and then I started finding out some more details and other stuff, and then it just got gnarly, and I just wasn't in the right frame of mind. I probably should have just took a fight to get it off of my chest. But it really, I really hurt my career by not stepping up and doing that. But I don't know, maybe I'm an emotional wuss when it comes to girls' relationship, or if it has anything to do with my mom, I'm out. I'm a mama's boy.
Of course.
So I don't know, man. Then I took a fight, and I was feeling finally good against Jimmy Rivera, and I was getting stuff over, and then I like pretty much blew my shoulder out, and I just went downhill spiral, man, from that, just emotionally and mentally. Was in just a bad depression. My shoulder was hurt. I couldn't train. So that was before that. So I'm back. I fight the Stamen fight, lose a close fight. I'm on the horn trying to get him to give me a fight. And then we kind of got in an argument, all this stuff. And then I just met up with Dana and told him, hey, this is what happened. This is why, on my shoulder, you guys have x-rays, MRIs, all this stuff. And then he asked me, why wouldn't you fight this guy? We were offering you Garbrandt. We were trying to make moves for your stuff. And I just told him, dude, I let my personal life kind of destroy part of my career, and I'm a human being, and it is, I just, it's what it was. And we hashed things out, and he was a cool guy, he's understandable. And we just sat down one-on-one and had lunch, just me and him, Dana and I, and we squashed things out. And here I am fighting Pedro Munoz, who's another top 10 opponent, looking to get back in the top 10 rankings and fight for that world title in 2019.
First of all, you're not a wuss. 10 years is a long time for anything to change. I almost started crying because I broke my phone while I was in the Dominican Republic on vacation, first day there. So I wouldn't sweat it too much. Not to say I'm tougher than you in any way. I don't want to stress this too much. You said obviously you don't want to get into the nitty gritty about what happened with Tate, and I won't ask, but I'm curious, do you ever wonder that as you're getting more public about the relationship, and like you said, things kind of went south, do you worry that she's going to hear this, or that it might upset her, or that you're starting to pick at something that might bring questions her way?
Not too much, because I'm not going to get too involved. I mean, everybody already knows we broke up. Everybody knows that she's dating one of my teammates. Everybody knows she had a baby by one of my teammates. That's all public knowledge. You know what I mean? So that's basically what I'm talking to. It's public knowledge on that. And obviously we were together for 10 years. So that's what I'm, basically alluding to. It's, that was hard to deal with, and some other things. But, she knows. We're still cool. We talk. Like, we still share our dogs together. We have 2 little puppies. We share custody back and forth. We're still, amicable and, cordial around each other, although it's awkward. Now she's left to Singapore, so it's kind of makes it a little bit easier stress not to have to see, them in the gym and a new baby. It's just really awkward. But it's, they're gone, and it's whatever. I'm glad she's doing good and got that. I'm super pumped for her and her family, but it just makes things a little bit more or less awkward. So I'm not really worried about that. I realize when it comes down to it, I don't really care what people think. They don't know any stuff in my shoes. I'm trying to be open as I can about stuff. But, the people out there who respect will respect me. The people out there who are trolls are going to want to be trolls and talk shit anyway. I don't give a fuck.
100%.
Language, so I don't care anymore, man. I'm just being kind of more of an open book. I think there's going to be kind of a tell-all book that I'm going to write in the future. And that might stir the pot a little bit. She might not be too happy about that, but
no one ever is when you put out a book, Brian.
I'm going to keep that, but man, I don't know how many people I've told, and just my story of not only with our relationship with her coming up from nothing, but just my livelihood, my life growing up as a kid, living in an RV for almost 3 years outside of Dennis Hallman's gym at Olympia, Washington with Misha, myself, my best friend. Just have a lot of crazy stories that are just pretty gnarly stories, I guess, and I think if I ever get the guts up to write a book and tell people about it, I think I can make a lot of money. So we'll see. We'll see what's in the future.
I look forward to reading it. Now, I do want to end this on some more positive stuff. A big thing I like to do with this particular segment is have a little bit of fun. I think everything's always too serious in MMA. Everyone wants to ask you about the fight. How's it going to go? You think you're going to win. Everyone thinks they're going to win. What else are you going to say? You guys are the toughest people on the planet. That comes with the gig. What I do want to ask you about is, are you a big comic book guy? Because I saw you do that little tribute to Stan Lee on Instagram.
crazy, bro. It's like the whole reason why I wanted to be a MMA fighter partially was because of that kind of stuff, man.
Really?
It's superhero. I love really huge DC fan, Marvel fan, both of them. Some people are the DC Marvel. I love it all, bro. I love all of them. Big time. I love it. All the comics books, X-Men, even just all the nerdy stuff. But yes, I'm a huge comic book fan. I love it.
Who's your favorite X-Men?
Bro, it's crazy. I know this is gonna sound they say if you're a true fan, you're gonna have one, but I love so many different characters. Like it's so hard. There's so many different flavors. It's like so many different characters with strengths, and it's so hard to pick, man. I don't even know.
Why don't you give me one that's like kind of under the radar? So like not a Wolverine.
Oh man. Oh man, I don't know. Oh, I don't even know. I don't even know what to think. I need to put it on the spot. I'm drawing a blank here.
I'm gonna throw out Nightcrawler. I love Nightcrawler, man.
I don't know.
No, what?
Nah, he's a nice guy character, but I'm like, no, not necessarily Nightcrawler. I'm trying to think of more of an interesting backstory. Yeah. I don't know. Right now, I don't know why all the freaking huge names are coming to my mind, but I don't know. Like, I don't know. I'm drawing a blank, man.
We'll talk after the fight. You'll have time to think about it. I'll get an answer next time. How about that?
Yeah, I'm just dieting, cutting weight. My brain's not working even half.
Man. What do you think about the Marvel movies? Do you have a particular? Did you see Infinity War? Did you like Infinity War?
Yeah, I thought Infinity War was awesome, man. I really loved it. It was good, man. They did a really good job. And actually, one of the best movies I think that Marvel's done, actually, I think was Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, by far.
Everything, cinematography, storyline, the production, everything in that movie was so well done. Like the characters played, I think, really, really exceptionally well. To the comics, it was really good.
Did you know that the third one's been postponed?
Someone was telling me that. I read that somewhere that's been postponed. I was like, oh man, I was hoping it wasn't true.
Yeah, because James Gunn got fired, right, for some old tweets that showed up. How do you feel about that? Because the whole thing was people started resurfacing really old tweets of his. He was saying really gnarly stuff, really inappropriate stuff, and he came out and he said very honestly, like, that was my sense of humor back then. I was kind of a provocateur. I've learned since I don't do that anymore. And Disney basically said no. How do you feel about people? It's so easy to resurface every bad thing people do. How do you feel about holding people accountable for what they've said or done in the past, but also giving them room to grow and change? And like, where's the balance?
Dude, it's ridiculous to go off that. You can't base somebody off of how many characters are in a tweet. I can't even remember. 100, 200, 180 characters. I can't even remember. You can't base someone's whole entire personality off of so many characters, especially when social media first came on board. Like, there's no tone in text, text messages or writing sentences or paragraph. That's really hard. If you're not a professional writer, it's hard to create tone and feel and emotion that properly portrays what you're trying to say, especially if you're joking. I feel like when Twitter first came out, nobody really knew how sensitive all this world was going to be. I mean, social media turned everything upside down. Everybody's so sensitive crybabies about every freaking thing. It's ridiculous. So I absolutely think if there's something in the past like that, it's bananas to try to crucify somebody for things. I mean, okay, you're talking to me. First of all, I'm the one that almost got crucified forever. I had a 4-year battle over people hating me because of Ronda Rousey, because I had like 3 or 4 beers, and I wasn't even talking to Ronda. I was talking to a fan that was literally like, Twitter was like been out for like 6 months or a year. Yeah. I never used it in life. This guy's like trying to punk me for like a month and a half straight, berating me. Some fan just talking shit, and I'm just like, you get drunk, and I'm like, bro, I'll fucking fuck your mom up. I'll break Ronda's arm and knock her teeth out with her own fucking feet. Like, like not even making sense. Like, I don't care. You come to your house too, and I'll smack your sister's butt and take her to my bedroom or something. You know what I mean? Just talking shit. You know what I mean? Like, this guy's been talking shit to me, and he could say all these things, but I'm an MMA fighter and you can't say these things. Oh, now it's about a woman. But even though I'm talking to some fan, I wasn't even talking to Ronda. I didn't even have a problem with Ronda. I was just, fired up, saying, just talking shit people all the time. Like, I'm when you get mad. You're not going to actually kill somebody. But now everybody takes things so absolute literal. And now you don't see him tweeting things like that because he realizes the world has shifted. You realize, like, okay, people, you can't joke and say things like this unless you're in a personal context and with people that know you.
Yeah,
because
100%.
everybody will take it out. Everybody will take it out. Now, like, he got fired his whole career over some shit that he was just probably joking about. And people say, well, you shouldn't joke about those things. Well, guess what? Everybody I know in my entire life, everybody inside their own personal friends jokes about stuff that even you don't really believe in. Like, you just make jokes about everything. I make jokes about myself.
Yeah.
You know, every single community there is. You know, like, I make jokes about the wrestling community guys being gay, wearing tights and wrestling. I love wrestling. It's so far from the truth, but like, it's just jokes. You know what I mean? And there's nothing even wrong if you were gay. You know, it don't even matter. You know, but that's just the lingo was different back then. You know what I mean? So it's just, everything's changed and came full circle. So it's really bummed to see him lose his job like that. I'm not sure exactly what his tweets were, but it was just a different time back then. People weren't really used to it. So I think it sucks. You know, it's bogus.
Well, and I'll say that, you know, he was making some pretty crude stuff, I think, about like rape or sexual assault. And it's no less appropriate if you say it now or 5 years ago, but that sort of humor was a lot more tolerated 5 years ago, and that's not an excuse, but I think you have to give people a chance to change with the times. So if you say something 5 years ago and you don't know that it's wrong, and in 5 years' time you learn, I think that should be at least taken into consideration.
Exactly. I mean, because there's a learning curve on stuff, you know, and maybe some people have crude humor, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't necessarily mean they're bad people. They may be raised differently. Maybe it's completely, he doesn't believe anything. I don't believe that he believes rape or anything like that is true. And I know you shouldn't joke about it, but you know, like I said, times have changed. If he hasn't been writing anything like that at all, you know, the past is the past. People grow, change. He learned. It is what it is. You know, don't crucify and jeopardize his whole career, especially a position that's that big. You know, it sucks.
Just to wrap things up here, a couple final ones. First of all, what was it like meeting Kazushi Sakuraba?
Oh my gosh. So he's probably my favorite MMA fighter of all time.
Yeah.
I love that guy. I'm a huge Fedor Emelianenko and Sakuraba are like my two favorite idols. Like, I love them. I love a lot of Japanese fighters, actually. They're a lot of my favorite ones. Kid Yamamoto was a huge fan, Genki Sudo. But, man, to meet Sakuraba, he is like the creme de la creme. It was, you know, only brief. I saw him at the PI for the whole day kind of there. It took me – I never get starstruck from anybody. I don't give a care about anything. But I took me some courage to go up and ask him for a picture. And, man, that guy's a savage. So it was pretty cool to be able to meet him and take a picture.
You posted a photo recently of your Glock 19, and you mentioned how, you know, just because you're a badass MMA fighter doesn't mean hand-to-hand combat is for every situation. And I was wondering, you know, all these different martial arts, they all have self-defense aspects that have to do with hand-to-hand combat, people with knives, people with guns. As an MMA fighter, let's say you have a gun on you. Are you approaching a self-defense situation with your hand on that gun, especially if you don't know what it is? Or how would you, let's say someone breaks into your house, what are you doing? What's your first thought?
Yeah, absolutely. Getting my gun and my hands on the gun and ready to assess the situation and protect my friends, family, or whoever, you know, and myself. You never know what's going to happen. You don't know if the other person has a gun. I'm not trying to bring a knife to a gunfight, so to speak. You know what I mean? I don't care what my skills are as far as hand-to-hand. You know, so yeah, I'm taking my life and my family and friends' life to, you know, the fullest, you know, safety I can. I sleep with my Glock 9 next to my bed, loaded every night. Some people might hate me, freak out for that, but I'm trained, I'm skilled in this. I don't have children around. You know, I take all the safety precautions, and you know, it's a safety tool, and you know, hopefully I never have to use it. But if something goes crazy, or you know, let's say we have a civil war, or another country invades us, and we had, you know, back in the day, Pearl Harbor got bombed. You never know what some other dictator or some other country is thinking. You know, all these people are going to be complaining, but guess what? If all of a sudden you see parachutes start flying in, or people start coming here and all of a sudden raid us, our military ain't going to pick up every single person that comes in here, you know, to war. Like, we can't wait in our house with no weapons waiting for the military to get here and do that. There's just the people hugely outnumber our military, like ridiculous. You know what I mean? So we got to take up in arms our own thing. That's what America was founded on. You know, Minutemen, having our own weapons and guns and being ready to fight and defend our country and ourselves. And we, from foreign and domestic, you know. So, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I have that hope. Like I said, I never have to use it, but it is an extra safety precaution.
Do you get
And,
flack online from people just for owning a gun?
man, you get flack for everything.
You do get flack for everything, don't
No,
you?
everything. Like, literally everything. Like, whatever. If you wear a certain type of hat, you do something wrong. Like, it doesn't matter. You eating pizza, you know, even after your camp, like, oh, you're going to be too fat. That's why you didn't win a world title. You eat pizza. Oh, you know, you're this, you're that. You know, everybody. I have friends that are vegan. Oh, that's why you lost a fight because you're vegan. You don't eat enough protein. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, there'll be people out there that nitpick every single thing. You can't make everybody happy. If you try to make everybody happy, you're going to be miserable yourself. So you just got to live your own life. And I'm actually a big fan of Silver Surfer.
Hey, look at that, man.
Now I was having a
Now I have no reason to bug you after the fight, though.
yeah, Silver
But I'm
Surfer.
glad you came up with one.
Yeah, so I mean, I know he's still kind of popular, but
Yeah.
yeah, he's not the biggest popular yet.
Yeah, I mean, I think who did Fantastic Four? Was it Fox? I think Fox kind of spoiled that for everyone, but
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
Marvel will make up for it at some point. Should you pass Pedro Munoz, do you have a name in mind? Who would you like to fight next?
When I pass Pedro Munoz,
When you pass Pedro Munoz.
it's already written in the history, bro. It's happening, guaranteed. I love that guy. He's one of the nicest guys in the division. He's one of the most underranked guys in the division. Pedro Munoz. No one sees any of his grappling. He's phenomenal. His kickboxing's tough. The dude's hard nosed, but I'm more hard nosed. And you know, I think I'm better. I think I can out kickbox him. You know, I go out there. I think I'm longer than him. He stands flat footed. I think I can move better than him. I think I'm a better grappler and a better wrestler. But I'm not looking past him. He's going to be a tough fight, and I'm pumped to show my skill set. But after him, you know, I'm not really looking past. But after him, man, I've been calling this out forever, and the UFC's been protecting him. I want to fight John Lineker. He's sitting at number 5 or number 6. I want that fight so bad. Him, or if not, I want to fight Cody Garbrandt. That would put me right in title contention. I feel like they're protecting both those guys because they're both strikers. Give me Lineker or Garbrandt, man, after this fight, you know, after I beat Munoz. I don't want to look past Munoz. It's a tough fight, but I would love one of those guys. Those are going to move me solid in top 10 in title contention for sure. I'll win over Garbrandt immediately for sure. I should be in title contention in my next fight. Win over Lineker, I should be right there as well. So either of those guys, whatever's going to move me up the ladder, man. Those two guys I would love to fight. They both stand their ground. They don't run. They're not afraid to get in a fist fight. You know, Garbrandt's super tough. He doesn't run away, and they both got power in their hands, and I got a great chin, and I'm hard-nosed. So those would be great, exciting fights.
Bryan Caraway takes on Pedro Munoz at the TUF 28 finale in Las Vegas on Friday, November 13th. Bryan Caraway, my man, best of luck. Thank you very much for making the time today.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for having me.